And we will now proceed to our Green Task Force update by Council Member Scott Benson.
Thank you, Madam President. And it is an honor and a privilege to introduce the Green Task Force, who will be coming in now, and our 7 leaders who represent the 7 different subcommittees of the Green Task Force. The Green Task Force was established in the year 2007, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the longest standing, continuously standing task force at City Council. It was established by Council President at the time, Ken Cockrell, and continues on today as a group of committed community advocates, business representatives, environmental experts, practitioners, advocates, and the business community all on the same table, which is very unique for the sustainability space. And we've been recognized by that nationally as being a task force that brings all these disparate communities and stakeholders together to advocate for sustainability. And we're advocating here today as well to utilize the Green Task Force as a City of Detroit resource, and especially for our City Council members. If you're having any questions, issues, concerns, please reach out to us. And we're hoping to get support by way of attendance and staff members to attend and learn more and help become advocates and change the lens on how we look at policy as well as contracts moving forward in the City of Detroit. We offer information on baseline assessments, how to build more sustainable districts, and how to find out various proposals or projects impact the environment. And the Green Task Force work coincides with the Sustainability Action Plan. A short list of our accomplishments includes advocated for provided support for the drafting of the passage of the City of Detroit's post-construction stormwater ordinance, the City of Detroit's greenhouse gas emissions reduction ordinance, facilitated the approval of the host community agreement with US Ecology, which helped to ensure that radioactive waste would not be processed at the Georgia facility of US Ecology, which was huge. We held monthly meetings with stakeholders to advance issues, progress towards common sustainability goals. We have 7 active subcommittees. We advocated for the charter mandated Office of Sustainability and helped get that established after 2014 when we
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
And it's in progress. Facilitated site visits to San Francisco as well as Minneapolis to help inform DWSD, DPW department directors, as well as council members who attended on both of those site visits. And none of those site visits were funded using taxpayer dollars, all funded using the philanthropic community. And so we'll also be offering an invitation to council members in the future for our next site visit, which we hope to hold and we're looking to take in the next 2 years. And that also resulted in an expanded curbside recycling program. And so with no further ado, I would like to introduce the members of the Green Task Force, and we'll start with Irma.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Irma Liepard.
Your microphone.
Good morning. My name is Irma Liepard, and I am a native Detroiter and resident of D1. As a priority, we strive to incorporate the principles of environmental justice and equity. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws and policies. 82% of polluting industries in Wayne County are in Detroit. As a result, we bear a disproportionate share of negative environmental consequences. This is not fair treatment. This shows up in health disparities, high asthma rates, heart and lung diseases, cancer, and most recently, COVID. Climate change exposes us to heat islands, high energy burden, street flooding, basement backups, and sewage overflows. Contaminated soil, the lack of tree canopy, and green space also affect our quality of life. To have meaningful community involvement, people must have an opportunity to participate in decisions that may affect their environment or health. Decision makers must seek out and facilitate the involvement of those who are potentially affected. Our concerns and contributions must influence the regulatory agency's decisions. To achieve environmental justice, we must have the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and equal access to the decision-making process and a healthy environment in which to live, learn, and work. We want a future with an engaged and involved community, a thriving green workforce, exemplary environmental protection policies, and a vibrant, sustainable, and resilient city in which no one is left behind and everyone's voice is heard. We will now hear from Myra, co-chair of the Transportation and Mobility Committee.
Thank you, Irma. My name is Dr. Myra Teta, and I am a Senior Program Officer at the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Foundation and a District 4 resident. I serve as co-chair for the Transportation and Mobility Committee along with Todd Scott of the Detroit Greenways Coalition. In recent years, we've seen the addition of scooters, MOGO, speed humps, electric vehicles, and also a greater focus on climate change, including stormwater runoff from our roads. The Detroit Sustainability Action Agenda has 3 goals that align with our committee. 1, it makes it so that it's easier and safer to get around without a personal vehicle. We also see the enhancement of infrastructure to reduce climate impacts, and then also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. A Complete Streets Plus policy would design streets that are safe and efficient for all users of all abilities, age, and also mode of transportation. And the added plus means that the street would reduce stormwater runoff, and you should have a one-pager with a more detailed explanation. If we can go to the next slide. Complete Streets makes our roads safe for all users. Detroit has one of the highest road fatality rates in the United States. As you can see, there was a spike in 2020, and most of this is attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Drivers were using higher speeds, and then also there was a tremendous strain on our first responders and healthcare system, which had the unintentional impact of treatment to others. And regardless of all of these things, we know that Complete Streets is a proven safety countermeasure against issues that folks will run into on the roads. And now I will pass it back to Irma.
Thank you. I am also chair of the Task Force Water Committee, Water and Green Stormwater Infrastructure, or GSI. Massive rainstorms due to climate change cause combined sewer overflows and flooding. Legacy contamination and sewage pollution label the Detroit and Rouge Rivers as areas of concern. Federal infrastructure dollars will help pay for remediation and address water affordability, but we also need passage of a Green Streets and Green Alleys ordinance, like Myra mentioned, to keep stormwater out of our overwhelmed and aging combined sewer system. We need to incorporate sustainability guidelines, including the use of GSI in parks and road projects, utility work, and planning frameworks. We need a Detroit River watershed management plan. This is needed to access certain state and federal dollars. Request compost for backfill at demolition sites to improve soil and permeability. And we need to create a citywide green stormwater infrastructure plan to guide our efforts. We also need support for green jobs, programs like certification for construction and maintenance of these GSI projects, rain gardens, wetlands, parks, stormwater ponds, urban trees and forests, plus native plant nurseries and compost suppliers. A home sustainability audit program will create jobs to assist with water and energy efficiency, minor plumbing repairs, composting, recycling, and disconnecting downspouts, which is required by city ordinance. GSI has many benefits. It manages stormwater, improves air quality, provides pollinator habitat and nearby nature experiences. It can increase property value, enhance commercial corridors, and beautify our communities. Thank you. Next is Natalie.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Jacob. I'm the co-chair of the Recycling and Waste Reduction Committee, executive director of Green Living Science, and a resident of District 2. My co-chair, Nishat Colleen, is a resident of District 6. Since 2015, curbside recycling has been available to Detroit residents in single-family homes as an opt-in program. We currently have a participation rate of 37%. In 2021, Detroit residents sent 900 tons of trash to landfill daily, which contributes to a whole host of negative health impacts. By some estimates, 90% of Michigan's waste stream is recyclable or compostable. We'd like to see the city move away from prioritizing landfill disposal to recycling, so materials can be put to their highest and best use, while also creating jobs and stimulating the local economy. Our committee is focused on these solutions: developing policies that divert more building materials from landfill and enforcing the City Council sustainability checklist. We'd also like to explore a policy that phases in double or triple waste streams in commercial and multifamily buildings. And lastly, continue to fulfill the requirements of the 2021 Event Waste Reduction Resolution. We ask that you thoughtfully consider these projects when they are brought before you. In closing, our goals are to make it just as easy for every resident to recycle and compost as it is to throw away trash. And now I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Good morning, council members. My name is Michelle Jackson, and I am the co-chair of the Organics Recycling Committee, Executive Director for Sustainable Community Farms. I'm here with my co-chair, John Kent, who's also a co-founder of Sanctuary Farms. More than a third of food waste goes to landfills, which creates huge amounts of methane, a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than CO2s. That impacts Detroiters and contributes to overall climate change. We've collected years of data that proves that positive practice of composting in districts 2 through 5. As we educate more Detroiters on this topic, demands and interest for food composting in residential, small, and industrial organizations have grown. Composting is not currently offered as a city service. As we continue to provide compostable solutions for our communities, we would like to collaborate and ask for council support in passing legislation to make a more inclusive definition of composting and policies that provide equitable access to community members and business leaders to practice the use of compost in our city. More of a more sustainable and zero waste environment. This can be achieved through policy, practice, and development, outreach, education, and engagement, composting at events in the city of Detroit, and pilot programs throughout the districts. Accomplishing to today, we have 3 different scales of compost pilots in our city. I will now pass it to Kendall.
Good morning. My name is Kendall Kuhneman, and I am the co-chair of the Energy Waste Reduction Committee. I work for the Detroit 2030 District and am a resident of District 7. I'd also like to introduce co-chair Ben DeWicki on the other side of me, Director of Community Partnerships at Walker Miller Energy Services and District 6 resident. The EWR Committee drives awareness of energy efficiency issues and opportunities in Detroit. In 2016, 48% of Detroit residents were housing cost burdened. That means that at least 30% of their income is spent on housing, including utilities. When energy costs exceed 6% of household income, that household is experiencing a high energy burden. This graph shows energy burdens determined by annual cost and income in Detroit. The highest number of households, next slide please, the highest number of households, 90,000 of them, earn an annual income of $30,000 or less and are paying 12% of that on utilities. Eliminating energy burden is critical for reducing housing and financial insecurity for our most vulnerable community members. We can do this by removing barriers of weatherization programs and improving access to utility efficiency programs and adopting a residential energy disclosure policy so that at the time of sale or rent, Detroiters will know what their anticipated utility expenses will be. Last week, the United Nations report warned of irreversible impacts of climate change. We have a brief window of time to avoid the very worst, and energy efficiency has the potential to get us halfway to greenhouse gas reduction goals. Reducing energy waste will save Detroiters money, improve public health, improve our building and housing stock, and address climate change. Right now, the EWR committee is also advocating for Detroit to adopt an energy and water benchmarking ordinance in order to measure commercial building emissions. And we are looking ahead to future building performance policies to reduce building emissions. All of the strategies mentioned today will drive significant economic and workforce development opportunities for Detroit. Thank you, and I'll pass this on to Diane.
Hello, I'm Diane Van Buren. I'm co-owner of D2 Solar, a solar company here in Detroit that's women-owned, and co-chair of the Renewable Energy Committee along with Diane Cheklich. We're both residents of District 5, and also Delbert Brown, another Detroiter. Kendall just spoke about energy efficiency. Our job with renewable energy is to talk about our source of energy. And in most of America, power is provided through burning fossil fuels, which is a leading cause of climate change. I think we all know that. I provided a handout for everyone to also follow what's happening around the country. Power outages have become more common these days, and to low-income households, it's a devastating ordeal. Yet DTE rates continue to climb. Right now, there's a current race case going on, and for 2023, their proposal is to increase rates in the DTE area another 8% higher than it is right now. Our low-income residents should not carry the energy cost burden when solar is an option for everyone. We're significantly behind in the challenge to make this switch to renewables as a city. We happen to rank 63rd out of 70 cities nationwide, and that's what this report will tell you about, the one that I just provided. Our committee is working to help steer the way for Detroiters to have affordable options for solar and clean renewable energy, including what we do is community solar education out in the neighborhoods, developing solar financing for faith-based and nonprofit organizations. We promote solar-friendly policy in Lansing. And we're right now working to assist the city with meeting its solar goals, which is to help ramp the solar production up by proposing solar for Detroit municipal buildings and especially recreation centers. I know a few of you are already solarized, and we'd like to help the rest of you and all of you help spread the word about solar in your neighborhoods. We're here to help you. Thank you very much. Kristen Shaw.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Shaw, co-chair of the Climate Committee, senior consultant at WSP, and District 5 resident. I present to you this morning on behalf of my committee, also led by Brianna Dubose and Donnell Wilkins. The City of Detroit must address the climate to protect Detroit's communities in an equitable and just way. We can do this by restoring our natural resources, improving sustainability, and ensuring that investments are done with climate solutions at the baseline. By making climate a priority, we make the economy a priority. The good news, sustainable investment can pay for itself when done correctly and can return higher. The Climate Committee is focused on the adoption of the benchmarking ordinance for the greenhouse gas inventory, for citywide support of the Climate Action Plan and the State of Michigan's decarbonization goal, using the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to ensure that Detroiters are not only a part of the conversation, but are in front of it. We also hope to strengthen the city's relationship and with our international partners, as we know the climate impacts will expand beyond the borders of our neighbors. Each of the committees you have heard from this morning are focused on topics that have been identified as indicators of how we can reverse some of the impacts felt by Detroiters today. The Climate Committee will support these efforts by setting our overarching goals to make the implementation of these policies not only easy, but meaningful. We invite you to join us to make this happen. And with that, I would like to introduce my colleague Donnell Wilkins to talk about how together we can find a way to effectively respond to climate change and how this work will protect our communities, our neighbors, and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, all. I'm Donnell Wilkins. I am a lifelong Detroiter. I am also the founder and CEO of the Green Door Initiative, an environmental justice nonprofit organization inside the city of Detroit. I work and live in District 5. I have been doing environmental justice advocacy for many years, like 30. I am your appointee as well to the Detroit Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, for those who are not aware. I'm really pleased to be able to come before you today because you've been given a great deal of information. We have a big job to accomplish that cannot be done by this committee alone. We need your involvement and your leadership. So we have a few items and opportunities for your engagement. In order for you to decide and develop what a sustainable plan looks like in your district, we invite you to become more involved in the work of the Green Task Force. First, by assigning a representative from your office to engage with us on a regular basis. We welcome that. We want you to think about all of the decisions that you make through a sustainability and equitable lens. So contracts, purchasing, development opportunities. We can help you create a policy checklist to assist in making those decisions. There are opportunities right now as a result of the Biden administration. Detroit is a recipient of the ARPA dollars, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, and there is some recognition of making certain that communities like Detroit get a just and equitable amount of those resources through Justice 40, which is an opportunity to align at least 40% of dollars that come from the federal government to invest in our community. We want you to continue to support and add as much funding to expand the Department of Sustainability. We want you to hold the city administration accountable for ensuring that sustainability is high on their agenda and they're accountable to that. We are also very much interested in your involvement in helping us achieve some of the much needed policies at the state level and at the federal level. You may You've heard a lot of information, but there's a lot more in the packets that we have provided you. Feel free to take a look at that. We are open and ready and available to work side by side to accomplish this great agenda. And thank you once again for allowing us the opportunity to come before you and share this vision and this work.
Thank you.
Madam President, that concludes the formal presentation. If there are any questions from our colleagues,
Okay.
the Green Task Force will be open to those right now.
All right. Any questions from my colleagues? About a couple of hands. Member Santiago Romero, followed by Member Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you so much, Member Benson, and to our task force for doing this work. I am deeply committed to making sure that we are working towards climate change solutions and that we are investing in our protections. We all know District 6 has Marathon Refinery. We have 2 bridge coming. We have a lot of issues. 94 is where I live, right off of 94. It became a river last summer. So I just emailed Joelle for my team to reach out to you to join the task force. I am incredibly excited about you asking for us to fully fund our Office of Sustainability. I completely agree. It can be doing more. It can be doing so much more to actually implement the work that you want to do. So for me, just thank you all so much. I'm excited. I look forward to working together with you, and reach out to me. I'll be reaching out to you, but really looking forward to working together with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Johnson?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you so much to Member Benson for the task force and for the phenomenal work you all are doing. I've been watching you all over a number of years and have been involved in some green practices. Thank you especially to the District 4 residents. I recognize all of you, and I appreciate your involvement because we all know we've seen the impact of us not doing this work. We see it on a regular basis, and so helping to make sure that we improve the quality of life for Detroit residents is of extreme importance, and I look forward to working with you all and supporting your initiatives. And again, I say thank you for all of the hard work. And thank you to Council Member Benson again, because you all just have presented a phenomenal presentation to us. But we know that it has taken so much time, energy, and effort to do the work and to even provide this presentation to us. So definitely look forward to supporting your efforts and your initiatives so that we can improve our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Johnson. And I too want to thank our colleague here, Member Benson. I know you've been eager to present. You guys are doing some amazing work. I love that there's representation from each council district on the task force that gives us, you know, a voice from all of our communities, which I love. I did want to mention that our office is working on a food waste ordinance that we've been modeling from other cities, and I would love the task force to play a role in getting that implemented right here in Detroit. And so just thank you for the work that you're doing. We will have a representative from District 5 in our office that can be a part of the task force and collaborate with you all. And there was a lot of policy ideas that were mentioned. So as legislators, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can implement some of those policies here in Detroit. So keep up the great work, and thank you. You guys are, you know, everyday citizens of Detroit. You do not have to do this. You're not getting paid to do it, but it comes from a love and a passion for the work. So I applaud you all for your commitment to this. Oh, they got a standing ovation. Okay. We truly appreciate the work that you all are doing. I saw a couple of other hands. Member Young.
Thank you, President Sheffield. I want to thank you for your leadership on this as well as Member Benson, who has been leading on this for a very long time, and I think he deserves all the credit for this. And thank you for all your work. I really feel that you are the unsung heroes, especially on this issue, and I think that future generations of children will be thankful for what you've done. When we talk about the reason why we have more abundant food in Detroit, we talk about why our air is cleaner, we talk about people no longer having to use breathing apparatuses to breathe, it'll be because of the work you've done here. So, you know, it's like they say, one of the greatest things a person can do is do work that outlasts them. This work will truly outlast you, and we're thankful for all that you've done. I just have a couple quick questions. One, I just wanted to just discuss basically, was there any discussions about the city mandating that new construction be solar ready at all? I didn't see that in this proposal. I just want to know, has that been a discussion at all to the conversation?
Solar Committee here, Renewable
Yes.
Energy. We've been working with the Office of Sustainability, Joel Harris, and we have been discussing that.
Yeah.
So I do believe that he's looking at how to make that proposal, and we're supporting that buildings won't be mandated to have solar, but they should at least be solar ready, so that those who are ready for solar, it's much quicker. We're also working with the BSEED to help streamline the process for solar permitting.
So I just want to make sure I get this correct. So no actual mandate, but you're just working to increase the process. Is that correct? But no actual.
It hasn't been formulated yet, as far as I know, but it has been discussed that it should be proposed.
Okay, and then secondly,
Would you support that?
No, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about.
Good.
I think that's something that's very important. I see other cities going along that route. I was going to say, if that was something that you had, or you had an ordinance or something like that, we should talk offline, because I'm definitely interested in participating in that.
We'll reach out to you.
And then secondly, this is my last question. I think we're all familiar with what's going on with what happened with the flooding in the basements, and part of that, from my understanding, was that the power went out, according to DTE. And I just want to know, has there been any discussion involving microgrids at all?
Well, that's a hornet's nest, because we start getting into statewide policy.
Right.
And but yes, we'd love to talk about about microgrids and distributed generation of power.
Absolutely.
The Michigan Public Service Commission is who regulates with DTE and the utilities how this all works. The state legislation has it in their hands. We've proposed that the city of Detroit get involved to help move some of the proposals in Lansing that would allow greater access to solar for all residents. And instead, right now, DTE, with the current rate case, is trying to limit it. So it is a very crucial time, and I'm so glad you're bringing it up, that we're all really aware of how regulation works with the utilities, and how can we as a city move past some of those regulations and create our own policy. We have a lighting department that's defunct, but we do have it on the books, and we should be talking about that as well.
That's a whole nother hornet's nest, but yeah, no, I totally understand. Has there been, I know there have been conversations about food. And I just wanted to ask, have there been any conversations about creating more food cooperatives or community land trusts. I mean, I know we've had conversations about urban farming. Now, you got to be careful when you start talking about animal husbandry. But when you're talking about just, food cooperatives and things of that nature, has there been that discussion all and plan about that at all?
Yes. The end of last year, it was a couple of folks, urban farmers to be exact, and we are actually in conversation and working on a East Side urban farmer co-op. So that is actually conversation. In fact, I think one of our meetings is the 9th, which is tomorrow. And the Detroit Economy is actually helping to fund some of those particular projects. So there is definitely information, conversation around it. And the land trust is actually more appropriate. Well, folks are actually looking in it in District 4 and District 5.
I look forward to talking to you about that in the future. Thank you, Madam President. I'm done. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Member Young. Public comment is now cut off. Public comment is now cut off. Member Callaway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, ladies, and happy International Women's Day. It's always women in the House doing that heavy lift, so I commend you. But I also want to commend my colleague, Councilmember Benson, for this extraordinary group and heading up this task force. I've loved everything I'm hearing. And hi, Natalie Jacob, you live in District 2. So this is Ramses Duke to my right. He is my policy analyst. And I hope that the two of you will work together because I'm looking at your policy and project policies and priorities. And I absolutely want to know more about the City Council's sustainability checklist. And I also want to know more about the building materials from landfills. I want to know how are we tracking that? If not, what can we do to track it? I'm really concerned about that. And lastly, passing an ordinance and promote beautification to reduce litter. And maybe we can start in District 2. I'd like to see more containers out. I'd like to see more signs out that says do not litter. You'll be fined if you do. And so, Natalie, I'm looking so forward to working with you. And thank you again, ladies. And again, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Callaway. All right, Member Benson, any closing remarks?
All right, yep, thank you very much. I'm just really excited that there's this level of engagement with the Green Task Force and things that we've been doing. And as I said, being established in the year 2007 and seeing all the work and accomplishments that we've been able to do today and the impacts that we're having and the growth of the Green Task Force is huge. And so, number one, I want to thank Kerwin Wimberly, who's the director of the Green Task Force and leads the day-to-day operations. And so the heavy lifting and the organization that you see here today and the growth is a direct result of his leadership there, making sure that the city of Detroit is moving towards, which my ultimate goal is being the greenest city in the United States. I want that Blue Ribbon Award coming to the city of Detroit. And so there's typically a misnomer when it comes to sustainability and environmental justice that this is something only for the suburbs and soccer moms. Environmental justice and sustainability has a huge impact on the city of Detroit, especially our most vulnerable residents. It has a health impact, number one, a huge health impact, and typically it's a health disparity that has a negative impact on the residents of Detroit. It also has a huge economic impact. And when you talk about jobs, when you talk about being energy burdened, those are huge. And if we can find ways to help reduce those type of expenses, it helps have a positive impact. And then just quality of life. You see trash throughout your community. If you have smokestacks billowing smoke, if you have your sisters, your cousins, your brothers, your fathers who have asthma because of the negative health impacts, that impacts your quality of life. And so what we're doing in the Green Task Force is trying to ensure that we're improving our quality of life, ensuring we're improving our health, as well as the economic outcomes for our residents in the city. And I just want to say thank you all for being here today. And as was stated earlier, this is a passion of love. This is a lifestyle. This is not a job. For many of our members of the Green Task Force, they have been here doing this for life. This is what they're about, and this is why we do it. And so also, charter mandated, the task force are required to provide an annual report. I like to motion to walk on this oral report to City Council to receive and file as our annual report to be presented to the City of Detroit.
Motion has been made.
Yes.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion is approved.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Madam President.
Great work, Member Benson. Thank you so much, and thank you all for taking the time to come down. And we will be in touch with you all. Thank you so much.